Welcome again to Myth Magic Medicine. This season 3, Immigrant Physicians.
Thank you.
Two doctors who are both immigrants talking about their experience. Hi, Heba, it's so kind of you to come back. Heba was in season 2 as well, talking about her professional life, but she is also from Egypt. So please say hello to the world and explain what brought you here from such a lovely country.
Yeah, thank you. Well, happy to be back. And yeah, hello world. This is Heba. I'm originally from Egypt. I was born and lived there part of my life, also went to medical school there, and then decided what the ceiling was too low and I needed to spread my wings a bit more. And I was actually looking back then at going to the UK versus coming here to the US. But a lot of things worked out in favor of me coming here. So here I am.
So let's start a little bit earlier than this. You were born, obviously. Which town or city do you come from in Egypt?
I was born in the capital in Cairo, Egypt. So the big city with like 20, 30 million people. So yeah. I'm used to, feeling like it's okay to be in everyone's space. But yeah, so I was born there, but we left when I was less than a year old. We went to Paris, France, lived there for a couple of years. My father was getting his master's degree in business. And then he had another, so those were government scholarships at the time. So he had another scholarship for a PhD. And then we left to go to Glasgow, Scotland. So we lived there for about...
Oh, which uni? One of my sons went to uni there.
I think University of Glasgow, isn't it? Yeah, I think it was the University of Glasgow, right? And so, I have very fond memories of growing up there. And then after that, I think we went back to Egypt for a year or two. It was really hard to live there, I think, for my parents. My brother and I were kids, but so then we went to the UAE before it got, so pretty and famous so we left there. We lived there for 5 years, I think. It was in a small college town. But it was great because that's where my brother and I went to an international school. So we had this exposure to all those, kids from different countries, which was amazing.
That is, so there were diplomats' kids and
or they're visiting faculty like my father or something like that. So it was a small college town.
So they still had to be based somewhere. Was it international out of the British system or the American system, or?
It was the British system, but it was a school that grew out of Lebanon of all countries. But it followed, I think. No, now that I'm thinking about it, actually the American system. Scratch that. Now that I'm thinking of the books, my algebra books and whatnot, they were all like American.
Okay. So your English was pretty good, because I assume the school was teaching you in English at that time.
Yeah, and I wonder if I think I have a good ear for accents, because I had a British accent for a long time. And then as soon as I came to the US, I just like started
got rid of it.
This. Yeah.
Mine kind of went away too. You can hear it sometimes, but I get upset.
Yeah.
But now when you were in France, did you pick up French as well? Did you have the opportunity?
I was little, but I can, like, so it was taught as a third language also in the other schools I went to, but like if I read or if I want to speak in French, I have a very good accent. So that's where I think also like my ear plays.
I mean, that's not what this is about. But one of the great things is if you can get those phonemes into children when they're very little, they'll have so much easier time learning a language.
So true. Yeah.
Do you still mix up your P's and B's? Ever?
No.
No?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't stop to think about that, but yeah.
So you were in school through until high school? You were abroad?
Middle school in the UAE, and then we went back to Egypt. Yeah. right towards the end of middle school. And then from there, the system is you go from high school right into your
Medical
college of choice,
Right.
and grad school. So from there, I went into med school there in Egypt.
Did you realize that you wanted medicine early on?
I'm not sure. My brother went into medicine before me, and I was thinking about, and it's a, I don't know if this is necessarily British, like a lot of things are follow the British system in Egypt, but you know, you're scored at a national level with your grades. And so you get to choose based on your rank, what schools, what your top choices are. And so I was thinking, I remember that moment, I was thinking, oh, nursing school would be nice, or, you know, agriculture, or, and I remember, you know, you have this sheet of paper, you put in your choices, check the boxes. And my mother just kept talking me out of each and every one. And it was like, oh yeah, okay, I understand. So it became by default mostly that I went into medical school, but yeah. Because everything else wasn't a good choice. That's how she made it sound.
Right. So you tried really hard not to be a doctor, but they made you. Okay.
Yeah, put nicely.
Yeah. So where did you end up going? Which school?
I went to Cairo University. It's the Faculty of Medicine there. And it's a 6-year medical school system because you don't have the pre-med. Yeah. So yeah.
You didn't have to do A levels?
I'm not sure.
The British system is was it O levels and A levels to matriculate for university. Did you have high school exams?
Yeah, we did actually have to do the A levels. Isn't that the higher level that you go? Yeah. So because I went to a private school, we did the GCSE. That's what it was called at the time. Yeah. So we had to there were certain requirements to make it equivalent to the Egyptian system. So you had to do certain subjects in A level, and then other things could have been O level. It didn't matter, right? So the majority had to be an A level. Yes. I remember now. Wow.
Oh yeah, way back.
That was way back in somewhere in my head where I forgot where it was.
Chemistry, zoology, physics.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
So how did you feel the first day that you walked into medical school? Was it how big a class was it?
Oh gosh, it was like 1,500 in my class. Yes.
And how many what's the med school to population ratio?
Oh,
you have some pretty big classes here too.
Yeah, so that is one of the biggest universities. Like it's the top medical school, and then the second one is,
well, as you pointed out, you got 30 million people in the city. So
yeah. But there are people who are on scholarships. There are people who are coming also from other countries. A lot of Malaysian students and Yemeni students came. But yeah, I don't know the ratio at all, but you were sort of assigned also based on where you lived. So I lived in the Giza part of Cairo. So that would be by default the Cairo University, even though it's Cairo University, it's in Giza. And then the other one, Ain Shams, was the other second big one. And then there's a bunch of other ones, but not any private medical schools. So the system is flipped. So and I know a lot of other countries are that way, so that going to a public medical school or even any public university is considered more prestigious than buying your way into a private university. Does that make sense? So yeah.
Well, yeah, buying your way in sounds a little pejorative. Yeah.
But yeah, so and
I point out most of you can buy your way in. Getting out with a degree is a lot harder.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. But yeah, it's sort of considered the back door at least in Egypt, to go to a private university just to get a degree, because you're paying for it basically. But yeah, those are public universities, and then everything is subsidized, which is nice, but at the expense of huge numbers, right? So then you end up having to take all these private lessons in small groups, so that you end up with a class of 20, and an instructor. It's basically you making up for that system that's
Mhm.
Yeah, that's too
And
big.
what was the anatomy based on? That sounds so silly if you're not a doctor to it. What do you mean? There's anatomy is the same everywhere, but they use different naming systems. When I went to school in Spanish, not in Spain, but in Spanish, and they used a French system, which is different
Oh,
from Gray's Anatomy. Which system does Egypt use? Because you got a pretty heavy French tradition
influence
there too.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't, that's a good question. I think, I don't know, first 2 years were anatomy, very, very hands-on actually. Like they had, those formalin immersed bodies
Mhm,
that no
mhm,
one claimed, right? Or were past criminals or whatever, and you were supposed to dissect yourself with your
mhm.
own hands, and the stench was just horrible. Um, but yeah, that's how we did anatomy. I'm not sure if
You
I
remember
think
the
it was
books?
all like a British system, really, but yeah, I assumed at least. But
Yeah.
yeah, so.
What was your favorite subject when you were preclinical? What was your favorite subject? And then once you got to clinicals, what was it?
Oh, good question. I think interestingly, it was actually microbiology, which is
Hmm,
interesting because now came back full circle and
you're
we're looking at the
microbiome now.
microbiome.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The
Mhm.
one I struggled with the most was always biochemistry.
Mm,
I couldn't understand these equations. They seemed like a given to everyone else, but I'm like, I don't know what affects what and how that goes in that direction. Why I get the enzyme piece and the slowing down and the, catalyst effect, but I don't like,
I don't want to calculate it. I just want to memorize
I
it.
can't. It's hard. But yeah. Yeah. So
So, and what was your favorite once you got into clinical work? When do you switch? Is like between third and fourth year?
yeah, so third year starts to prep you. There's a lot of public health stuff,
Hmm.
which was really fun because we live in the city. We're kind of also still in a silo, but they take you out
Hmm.
on these field trips to the small
Right. I did
villages,
too.
and you understand like, oh, how they use the canal water, or they have their
Hmm.
sewage system is in a tank. All these things were like,
Right.
oh, really? People live like that?
Well, exactly. That's a lot of places in the world. The students have a different world that they're living in than many
Yeah,
of the people in the towns.
yeah,
It's
but
terribly
even
important as a physician to understand, really understand, not just on paper, but really understand where your patients are coming from.
absolutely, yeah. So it was really eye-opening, and it was fun. I enjoyed that. But
Mhm,
yeah, so that was sort of the transition there in the third year, and then fourth is where you start your clinical rotation. So fourth,
mhm,
fifth, and sixth, the sixth year are all clinical heavy. Um,
mhm.
so let's see, of the ones that I enjoyed. Well, I enjoyed pediatrics. I knew that. I love,
That's good
love.
considering what you wound up doing. Yeah.
Thankfully, that worked out. And then I think ophthalmology was another
Oh,
interesting.
really? That's usually an elective here, I think. Was
Yeah,
it a
yeah.
requirement? It was an elective.
No, I think it was an elective, like just like dermatology and all those
Hmm.
subspecialties. But yeah, I think I chose it as one of my electives. You're right.
Hmm. Do
Yeah.
you do an internship as part of the graduating requirement?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's in total 7 years, really,
Yeah.
before you can start a residency. Yeah, basically, one more.
Right, but here you are done and you are officially a doctor, and then you go find yourself a.
Yeah.
Most people just do a straight internship these days, but a few specialties need a transition.
Yeah.
Um,
But you
so
can't get, sorry, your license until you're
right,
done
you
with
can't
that
get licensed until you've done it.
transition. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Do you so you did your 6 years, you had a nice little ceremony to say you'd finish all that sort of work, but then you had to really go and actually feel like a doctor in when sometimes it was your choice what you were going to do rather than be told.
Yeah.
Um, where did you serve that? Was that also in Cairo?
Yeah. So my first pediatric residency
Mm-hmm.
number one. Yeah, that was at Cairo University. And then they don't have fellowships, like formal fellowships. So you just join a subspecialty. So at first I went to ICU, pediatric ICU, sort of informal training, but that quickly realized it wasn't the life, quality of life I was looking for. And then by default went into pediatric endocrinology. I think we talked about that.
Yeah, we did a little bit, but
episode.
not everybody would have listened to season 2. So, and when did you decide you were going to come to the States or somewhere? And how did you make that decision? How did you make the decision of one English-speaking country over another who speaks a different English kind of?
That's true. So I knew I kind of had the urge to leave and felt like I can, if just given the opportunities, I can do more. And I was really interested in research all along. And part of the training, like to get your master's degree or PhD, you still have to, and even your final MD, not like the MD when you graduate here, but MD.
Yeah, and that a lot of people don't realize that an MD is a secondary designation because
it's a higher
medicine is a bachelor's degree because you go straight from high school. It's a 6-year bachelor's degree.
Yeah, it's MBBCh. It's a so I knew I was enjoying doing that research. And then I know a lot of my mentors at Cairo University, they were all very strong women. I know I say that and people are surprised. Really? So you have women doctors that are senior there? I'm like, yes. So they were very strong women and they knew I was interested in research. And so they started looking for more like opportunities for like scholarships or training grants for like third world countries like us. And there was something through the European Society of Pediatric Endocrinology at the time, but they were also, they would sponsor you in any country in the world, so long as you had a sponsor / mentor who was willing to take you in their lab. So that's how I ended up here because, I was reaching out to
so you came in originally as a researcher.
Yeah, I came in as a researcher. I actually did not get that grant funded, but the person who sponsored me he really, thought there was hope in me, I guess. And he said, well,
encouraging.
I like how you communicate and, you're really on this. And, he saw me write up a grant too and gave me feedback. So he was like, you know what, I have a grant. We can bring you over. You can come work in my lab. So, so I did a postdoc.
And where was that? Where was that?
I was in Seattle, Washington, at the University of Washington. Yeah.
It's quite different scenery and weather.
Oh, I know, but it's so beautiful. It just, even it grows on you. It's just an amazing area. Yeah.
And how long were you in Washington?
So for that postdoc, it was like 1.5 years. And mind you, I wasn't thinking, I was thinking initially, okay, I'll learn some research techniques and then go back and see if I can apply that in Egypt. But then I started feeling 2 things. One was the itch to see patients, even in attending grand rounds or whatnot. I'm like, I want to.
Frustrating.
It is. It's very hard. And the second part was like, actually, I do like it here and I like the system and I want to be a part of this system. So maybe, I'll go back, take, you have a faculty position there. You have to go back to after you get your MD, PhD, whatever you want to call it. So I had to go back for that. But at the same time, I was like, maybe I'll just take my USMLEs, and see if I pass. This was really naive. I don't know if I told you that, but like, if I pass, then that's my sign. I'll schedule them all back to back. It's my sign.
Really? Did you wait for the results before you got the next one? You just went through the whole
lot? No, as long as you can schedule all of them. So I think the clinical one and step 3, you have to wait for the results. So I scheduled them back to back, and I was like, and I was full-time back at work there, and I was like, it's okay. It's going to be a sign for me. And so this sign, I guess, came true, and I came back. So so I came back.
So you went home, you finished the postdoc and you went back to Egypt.
I went back to
So-
Egypt, went back to
so,
practice
but-
and
So,
faculty.
right, so that you took all of your exams there, except for CS, of course, which is no longer being given post-COVID. You
Oh,
physically
really?
had to be here, and you only have 6 places that you can go to take that exam. So it's
Interesting.
hard. Yeah. Did you come over to take CS here?
Yeah, I came over to take CS, then went back. So that was a very short trip. And
Mhm.
then when I came back to interview, so you don't need to take step 3 to go into residency. But I took that while I was interviewing because obviously, I'm paying for all of this internationally and travel. And I was like, this is so expensive. Let me just take it while I'm there. So yeah.
Mhm. Did you fly back to Egypt to find out if you had a place, or did you wait around here to find out?
Oh
if you
no,
had a
I
spot?
had to go back. Yeah. I had to
Okay.
go back.
When you were back, were you working?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. As in research, or were you seeing patients?
No, faculty, so teaching mostly and seeing patients. So Cairo University hospitals are like quaternary centers, so they serve
Mhm.
other countries as well. So it's a huge patient volume. So they really want us to focus mostly on seeing patients and teaching. And then clinical research, any sort of observational or collection of data or chart review sort of research is also important, and it's part of the promotion process. But you have very, very limited resources.
You got to find
You
your
don't
own
have-
time for it.
Yeah, you don't have your own lab. Exactly. So I did a few surveys here and there and, did a case report or whatever, but it wasn't really
Okay.
that impactful. Yeah.
And then you entered the match for here.
Yeah, actually, I went outside the match at the time.
Not always an
Because-
option, but sometimes it is.
Yeah, because I knew I wanted to do pediatric endocrinology, and I knew there were several places interested in me. And I knew I had a little bit of an advantage to negotiate because of that. And so I negotiated a 2-year residency instead of a 3-year residency, so long as the American Board of Pediatrics allowed it, which they did, to give me credit for my prior training. And so that's what I went outside the match, went to this small town, Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's not so small.
I like Chattanooga. It's
Yeah.
nice. Nice
It is.
railroad carriage hotel.
Yeah, it's cute. It's not so small, really. I shouldn't say that, but not a big city or capital. But yeah, so went there for residency, sucked it up for 2 years because I was like, oh man, I just this is hard to do. And I've practiced independently before, and peds is not my thing. I want pathology. I don't want checkups
Yeah.
in clinics.
Well, it's nice to have a little bit of that. It's nice to see children
true.
be healthy too.
It's true. No. Don't get me wrong. Totally great.
It's important work. No, just
It is very
our friends in
important, but
general peds.
I'm looking for something to fix,
Yeah.
It's just my personality, I'm a fixer that way, I guess. But yeah, no, I mean, I love my patients. It was sad to leave. It's always sad to leave, your patients behind.
So where did you do your fellowship?
So that was back in Seattle. So I went back to
Okay.
Seattle Children's, University of Washington. That one, because I didn't get formal training in Egypt, so it wasn't a formal fellowship. I didn't get a waiver. So I did all 3 years, which I'm glad I did. It was really helpful. Yeah. So,
And then what was the next move for you after that?
all right. So I still knew I wanted to do research, but I was not a permanent resident or citizen, obviously. So I didn't qualify for institutional K awards and couldn't stay in Seattle. And so
Oh, sorry, what visa? You had a J1 or an H2?
I had an H-1B actually, which was, it's a good visa, right? But your chances are a lot lower to try and apply yourself as an individual for funding. Get, institutional support. So my best option was to take a clinical job, which was, my first job in Pittsburgh. So
Oh, another common
Yeah,
I
yeah.
lived,
maybe
I
this-
lived, I didn't live in Pittsburgh. I lived in Latrobe. My first job coming out of New York was in Latrobe.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, that was close. Got a lot of patients from there. So yeah, yeah, that was my first job for 4 years. I was clinical director there. And so it was clinical administrative, but
Mhm.
I still had the urge to do research. So I did research on the side. And what was
Mhm.
nice is I was part of this like consortium where you can do data analysis and do epidemiology kind of work. So I didn't have to
Mhm.
recruit for a study or something. So that was nice. So then I built my resume that way. And then once I became permanent resident and then citizen, this research position came up here at IU. And so
Mhm.
yeah, I moved over here. So
Yeah.
long.
Long road, yeah. At what point did you acquire your children? You
I
have
know.
which must have impacted your workflow considerably, because they
Oh,
do.
it has. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, someone once told me that was actually a physician in Egypt. She said, our life as physicians is mostly medical and everything else is paramedical. That includes our kids, our, family, our health. It's paramedic. So yeah, so
Mhm.
I see them as like peripheral, but they're not really. But yeah, so I guess I had my son while I was ending my fellowship in Seattle, and then
Mhm.
had my daughter while I was in Pittsburgh. So yeah, they're 3 years apart. So
Okay.
yeah.
Very good, very good. What do you miss most about Egypt? If you could design a healthcare system that would allow you to live in Egypt, but where you could practice medicine the way you want to practice, do you think you'd be tempted to go back?
Yeah, I think most definitely. So I miss the um I think I miss the simplicity of the people,
Mhm.
especially if we're talking patients. Again, most of my training and work was with people from villages somewhere out in the desert, very simple, very
Mhm.
and I didn't mind at all breaking it down for them. And they didn't necessarily want to be informed like here. Like here, you want to really make sure your patient, makes that educated decision with you. Over there, they
Sometimes
just,
that's a burden for the patients, because
yeah,
there's an awful lot of knowledge that goes into really being informed about a decision.
exactly. So they just trusted you, and they believed that you could make the right decision for them, which was a burden on me then. But then I think it created more of a bond because there's some higher level of responsibility now
Mhm.
that they just trust you so much, right? And so you're really watching everything and making sure they're okay. And, you're almost dragging out of them any side effects. They're just like grateful
It's
for anything and
it's
everything.
fine.
It's like, thank God, everything is good. Thank you, God. Thank you. I'm like, I
Yeah.
understand. Thank you, God, for
What could be
everything.
better if you told God?
Yeah,
So,
I miss
do you
that.
think there's much difference in the attitude of patients here?
It depends. So, where I am right now and where I've been before, and especially in Seattle, there's a lot of higher, we get those engineers who came, with their kids and had their own algorithm already,
Mhm.
set up.
Mhm.
I'm like, why do you need me? You don't need, you got this figured out. But yeah, no, it depends. So maybe more in Pittsburgh, we had people from, West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania. So smaller towns, very simple people. They really reminded me of, the patient
Mhm.
that, just trusted in you, had a lot of respect for you as a physician, and, just went with whatever you recommended. And they enjoyed that you actually asked about them and how they're
Mhm.
feeling. And, they're not
Do
in a
you
rush to get out.
do you
So
feel you have the same amount of time to spend? Well, that's the biggest complaint I hear people say. They don't, that insurance quotients
yeah,
quotas are
and
making us all
institutions.
crazy. Yeah.
hospitals.
You get 3
it's
minutes.
getting harder and harder. I mean, it is getting very hard. And if I'm expected to chart and then put in prescriptions and then reach out, to coordinate for a prior auth or whatever, all
How
that.
much
is
time
hard.
let's go with what must be a very routine. When the first time you tell somebody their 2-year-old is diabetic, how long do you need to have a conversation with that person? How long do you need and how long do you get?
Oh, yeah. So that's a hard one. So
I was
you-
just picking the easiest endocrine
yeah,
subject matter, not necessarily the easiest subject to discuss, but
absolutely.
most people
Absolutely.
realize that's
Yeah.
endocrine.
I think for people with diabetes, I think it's more, we do have the advantage of when the kids are first diagnosed, usually they come into the hospital and they're admitted. So we have some flexibility with time, but sometimes, service is busy and we have to run to see the next patient. But yeah, it probably takes a good, 30 minutes to really go through things without rushing them to process everything. But you have to be careful because you don't want to overwhelm them, right? There's
Right.
a lot to diabetes. And
Here's this book. Go memorize it. Come back. Any questions? Do you feel you have good additional care available? There's social workers, there are people that specialize in, so they've got that. Did you have that available in Egypt?
no, so that definitely is an advantage to have here, right? You have a psychologist who could help, not necessarily available all the time, but social work is definitely part of our team. We have a diabetes educator, we have a dietitian, right? So all those people, it's a team, really. Having those people, we had maybe one dietitian who served also as a diabetes educator where I worked in Egypt. And we did a lot of the diabetes education ourselves, and actually in a very simplistic manner. Like we use the points. I don't know if you're like, instead of 15 grams of carbs, it's 1 point. It's almost like a Weight
Watchers.
Yeah, because people do. So pita bread is like 15, or so pita bread, like half is 15 grams. So that's, 1 point, a whole pita bread is 2 points. That's how, you had to make it simple for them. But yeah, so we didn't have that. So they teach them in groups, right? So they 15 people in the room all learning together. But it actually worked out well because, again, those are people who aren't necessarily asking a lot of questions. It's more of a didactic kind of nature, and then giving them sort of examples. Why don't you tell me how much insulin you? So it's like, it's very.
And you've got to, you get the first bout of information. You've got to go home and digest it, and then come back with the questions that come from it. It's a fairly protracted journey.
Yeah.
I think, of course, the biggest hit has to be your child has this and it's not going away.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
yeah.
right. And they need insulin for life, right?
Yeah.
So whether that's here or there, it's the same impact. And in certain cultures, not all, there's stigma associated with that diagnosis, right? So it's really hard to help them navigate that process, and trying to hide that from family, or it's like really, yeah.
All right, let's talk social. Let's done with medicine for now.
All right.
What do you miss socially from Egypt?
Oh, I miss a lot of my friends, people I went to medical school with.
Did many of them wind up over here or England?
Not that many. There's friends of friends that wound up over here, but it's so huge a country that it's hard for like, we know, we see each other on Facebook and what we're up to, but that's it. But yeah, so so a lot of them are still back there and they're doing well. I visited a couple of years ago and they seemed happy and doing well, and
good.
So yeah, I miss that. I miss the one advantage to the West in general is the practical nature of things, right? So you're struggling with something, okay, you take a few days off, whatever, family leave, whatever it is, and you're expected to move on after that and, you know, keep everything going, right? And it's a really practical, good way of doing things. But on the flip side, you miss the compassion, right? That you
had your 3 days to mourn. Now get back to work. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's certain levels of, oh, I want to feel this with you, you know. There's almost this and it's extreme too in the Middle East. There's this, they love, you know, being sad and you know, like I just read this recently. There's almost an addiction to certain emotions in people, and they have that addiction to, oh, let's mourn, you know, this person for, and
it was the volume and the amount of distress they were comfortable showing.
Yeah, let's be practical. So there's advantages to both. It just depends on the moment and what you need, right? And so, yeah, so I miss that compassion. And I remember when I was, we had visiting students from different parts of the world when I was still in high school in Egypt. And one of the girls made this remark of like, you Egyptians are really funny. When one person cries, you all sit around that person and start crying, even though it didn't affect you.
Right.
I think
that is to when somebody dies, certain cultures, you feel everybody has to make a great to-do about it. Again, very British. You know, I'm sad, my mother died. And the other people don't realize that, yeah, it's hurting. I'm just not going to go on about it. And it doesn't mean that you're hurting more or less than the other person. And it's very different. It's one of the really nice things about you traveled a lot before you became a doctor. And the travel, it doesn't, you don't have to become an immigrant, but it's the more you can learn about people all over the world, the more you can show concern for your client.
We're all the same, right? And
we're all the same but different in the way we express the same thing. We're all sad, but we all tell you about it differently.
And how we do it too, right? So I always say, like, the British, you know, drive on the other side of the road, and Americans say they drive on the wrong side of the road, where everyone gets to their destination in the end. There's no problem, you know. Both sides.
If you're on the same road, it might be difficult.
Oh no. Now we don't want to try that. But my point is, you know, it's different ways of doing the same thing or feeling the same thing. But yeah, that's something that I would say I miss that, right? So
you're bringing your kids up in America, so they're obviously going to be very American in many ways. My kids are very American, but they will sometimes remember bits of their other heritages. So how do your kids respond to the world? They suddenly say it sounds quite Egyptian to you?
No, I wish. Yeah, they're still learning a few words of Arabic, and it took me a while to finally introduce that to them and introduce my faith, right? We had an interfaith marriage, their dad and I. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's safe to do that now. So they're still learning, but I'm excited that they're excited about learning, right? And my daughter just yesterday, all of a sudden out of the blue, she's like, I'm so happy I'm half Egyptian because I have so much gold. Egyptians have so much gold.
Okay. Did you realize how much you had?
Like, that's a nice way to look at it. Like, yeah, Egyptians from a long, long time ago had much more gold. I was like, yeah, I never thought of that. So,
have they both been back to Egypt?
No, but I
plan
to take them. Yeah, next year. Yeah.
And you mentioned you're from Giza. Isn't that where most of the pyramids are?
Yeah.
And then what's pyramids. You're right. You have to talk about it. We can't talk about Egypt and not talk about pyramids. Come on, talk about the pyramids. Educate us.
We're a former colony. You should know something about them.
That's why I know they're in Giza.
Oh, you're better than so many, trust me.
So how much a part of your identity as an Egyptian is colored by that old history?
That is a hard one. So Egyptians generally feel there's this certain sense, and this is just my observation, I'm not a sociologist, obviously, but there are a lot, Italians are the same way, and so are Greeks. We have all these monuments, all of this great history in front of us, and we're proud of it, but at the same time, we're ashamed because we have this sense of like insecurity in the sense, or insecurity isn't the right word, but the sense of like, oh, we couldn't keep it up, we couldn't be the greatest civilization till this day. Look at us, we're a third world country,
and this is true of all history, right?
So that's something that I think we know that inherently in ourselves, and it's sort of, I see it in Egyptians who have immigrated, and how they carry themselves with a sense of pride, but there's a certain degree of, oh man, we're so behind, what a shame, our ancestors would be so embarrassed, kind of thing. So, yeah.
You miss the food?
Oh, I miss the food for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So good.
Do you have, you're in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Indianapolis, I have a fairly good restaurant.
There's maybe one restaurant where I like their food. See, we say Middle Eastern food is hard to commercialize and franchise. So if you have falafel and some of these, very kind of fast foody places, it never tastes right. Yeah. And the texture is wrong and everything. So the best Middle Eastern food is to really eat, to try is in someone's home. But yeah, there's one place that I've liked, but not a big influence.
But can you buy the right ingredients, and so you can cook yourself? Okay.
Yeah, every place I've lived in the U.S., there's always the one or two Middle Eastern stores that sell that stuff, right? So
yeah,
it's a lot of work. So I don't generally cook Middle Eastern. It's like hours. It's crazy.
And then they eat it, and you start all over again. Yeah.
It's so, you have to spend so many hours in the kitchen. That's why it's hard to commercialize probably too, right? So yeah, no.
I think one of the biggest realizations food-wise, admittedly well into my middle age, was discovering at Ramadan, if you buy dates at Ramadan, boy, those are good dates. The things I used to eat at Christmas time in England when I was a kid, it's like desiccated. Not even close.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And especially if you're fasting, everything tastes so good, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah. No.
Right. Do you have any parting words? Do you have any?
I don't
Do you think you'll go back? Do you think you'll go back and lecture when the children are, things are more stable for you?
I'd love to help, medical students there, help my country in any way. I don't know that I would ever go back and live there. Maybe after I retire, I'd go live in a resort or something. They have some really nice resorts, but I can't go back to their traffic and the hustle and the bustle and the crowdedness. That's just kind of hard.
I'm sad, but I have never been to Egypt, but I have been to Turkey. And if your traffic is anything like Turkish traffic, I mean, I don't understand the rules. Are there rules?
No, it's a video game and you're trying not to get shot, right? You're just like,
but everybody stops for the little old lady who decides to walk across the street. That's
yeah, the way you cross in Cairo, they say you just put yourself in front of the car and they'll stop. And that's true. You can't wait for them to stop for you. You gotta like step in on the road and
with prayer and walk.
And don't even make eye contact. Just it's crazy, but yeah, it is. And I can't believe that like some years ago I actually drove there, because if you tell me to drive there again, it's like there's no way. That's crazy. Yeah, it's scary, but yeah, they make it happen. They get to their destination,
That's
same
right.
idea. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And
Yeah.
so nice to talk. We'll talk again soon. We
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
won't record it, but we'll talk again soon.
It's always fun. It's always fun to
Thanks.
talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at Myth Magic Medicine. If you have found this episode useful, you can apply for free CME credit through the link provided in the transcript. If you're not a medical professional, please remember, while we're physicians, we're not your physicians. So please consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you have heard might apply to you or a loved one. Until next time, bye-bye.